In this video, I'll explore using water-based spray paint and the mesh from a recycled potato bag as a stencil to create abstract art in my sketchbooks. Hey everyone, it's Chris Loud. I recently ordered a couple of small cans of water-based spray paint from Spray Planet because I love using spray paint in my mixed media pieces, but I'm not a big fan of the fumes from regular spray paint. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see more about their paint products. So this week I thought I would play with these in a few quick pieces in my sketchbooks. So I'll show you these two sped up abstract painting demos where I include the spray paint and the mesh bag in the abstract pieces. I'll also share the final paintings and some close-ups as well as another piece that I did at the end of the video. So I'm putting down a couple layers of acrylic paint for a background, starting with Prussian blue, Payne's gray, and a little cadmium orange. Then a mix of cadmium orange, titanium white, and a tinge of Payne's gray roughly over top of that, just to give me some kind of background that I can work over top of with the mesh and the spray paint. So I come up with ideas like this quite often, and I do my best to write them down so I can play with them later and keep learning new techniques and see what works and what doesn't work. So if you'd like me to record more of those like I did this one, let me know in the comments. I did a video not too long ago where I used 5 items from around the house to create an abstract painting. I'll put a link in the description for that if you'd like to see that one. And while I didn't love the painting at the time, it has since recently grown on me. And I still use one of those items that I played with in that video to create texture to this day. So you can see I'm using the mesh, putting that down, and using this black spray paint to use that mesh as a stencil. And just trying to get a feel for how much pressure I need to put on the nozzle, how much paint I want to be spraying down, and if I need to be moving my hand back and forth. And what I'm learning is, especially on this piece, is that the more you press down on that nozzle, the more pressure you put on it, the more you move back and forth, the more you kind of block in that, and the mesh texture starts to disappear a little bit because the paint gets underneath that mesh. So I'm using a fine tip applicator now to put down what looks like barbed wire. I kind of looked at this one and thought it looked fence-like, so I just thought I would throw that in as well into the middle and play with that. And I'll show you what I do with that here in just a minute with that barbed wire to make that sound a little bit more. But I'm not sure I like the barbed wire in there. I kind of liked it without it, but thought I would just throw that in. So I'm going to use a stick and this iridescent bronze. It's a fluid acrylic from Golden, and I'm just going to put a little hits of this bronze on top of the barbed wire, the barbs, just to make it stand out a little bit more. Again, I'll show you the full piece at the end of the video, and I'll in a little bit better lighting and some close-ups so you can kind of see how that looks. And this next piece that I'm going to kind of jump into here was one that I was working on, didn't like where it was going, kind of stalled out, so I decided to use the same piece and go over top of that and just go in a different direction. So here's that piece. You can see I've already put some of the background down, some of the mesh with the spray paint, and now I'm going to just, like I said, go in a different direction, put down some more cadmium orange, and just see what I can do to make this stand out a little bit more. I really just didn't like where that was kind of going. And even though these are kind of test and practice pieces, that's a perfect time to just keep going and keep playing. And there is one spot in here where I put the mesh down and start painting around it that I wish I had done something different. And I'll show you that when that comes up. We should always be trying to experiment with new techniques and materials for several reasons. And when I say that, I'm not saying that we have to go out and buy something new. We have plenty around us to play with. Just think about kids that open presents and then they play with a box. As artists, we have plenty of those so-called boxes around us. We just have to be curious and open to wondering, what could I do with that? How could I incorporate this broken CD or these scraps of fabric or this old key or this cardboard box? Maybe that's experimenting with it as a piece for collage, or looking at it as a way to apply paint with it, or use it as a stencil or as a subject idea or something else. So right here is where I was talking about. I wish I had done something different. I really liked how that looked, especially in the bottom portion of it. But when I put the next bit of paint down, I kind of take away the engaging aspect of that with the thicker bit of the mesh. But once I put the paint down, it was kind of hard to go back and pull that back, so I had to go with what I had. However, I'm glad I recorded this and was able to see that, because it's something I might go back and play with on a different painting at some point. So I'm going to start working with some charcoal and a blending stump to start trying to create a little bit of form and depth with this. So like I said, some reasons to experiment like this. Sometimes it helps us look at art with a fresh perspective. So trying new tools and materials can refresh our creativity, which helps us kind of break out of repetitive habits or ruts. And it can open up new ways of seeing and thinking about our art. I think, I went through a brainstorm of what mesh could represent in an abstract painting, in addition to just, cool texture. When I think of the look of mesh, I think of a net or a fence or a bag, or just something in general to contain something. But what else? What other things could that represent? I'm not going to go into my whole brainstorm on this, but if you have any ideas, leave me a comment. So experimenting allows us to learn new skills and techniques, which we can integrate into our existing style or use to create something entirely new. And you can see how I'm using this blending stump, and I'm starting to work into the lighter areas of this painting to create a little bit of form, some more shade and shadowy areas in that, to just give it a little bit more texture. So when we explore different materials, we learn how to be more adaptable, whether it's handling different textures, tools, or surfaces. We become more versatile in our approach. And really quick, if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. And as always, if you have any feedback or questions, I'd love for you to leave me a comment. And new materials often present unexpected challenges, which kind of forces us to think creatively and find unique solutions. And that can be a big help to us when we feel stuck. It gives us more options to come up with a solution. And by working with unfamiliar tools and mediums, we develop a better understanding of how they behave and what they can do and how they respond to different ways, in different ways of using them. And at its heart, art should be enjoyable. So I think, at least for me, exploring new techniques brings a sense of play and excitement and joy into creating. We just have to stay curious and open. So I show you some close-ups. You can see the bronze here on this and some of the mesh. And we might find that this kind of play and experimentation might inspire our next project, or even help us evolve as artists. So your challenge is, this week is to find something that you've never used before when creating, and find a way to work it into your next art piece. Doesn't have to be anything grand. It can be some small thing that you've never done or used before. So you can see these close-ups here. I added a little bit of that bronze into this piece as well. And in light, it really kind of pops. And I'll show you this last piece. I wasn't as thrilled on this one. I showed this to another person. They really liked it. Of the three, that was their favorite, which honestly I was a little surprised. But, you know, it doesn't do a whole lot for me, but it was still fun to do. So take on the challenge. Thanks for watching, and keep on painting.